to remind me how to dress again for this weather because I was definitely peeling layers off. To be fair, it did go from 70 to 35 between 4 days, but got a good run, cleared a lot of the passages out. If you're a runner, you know, not to be gross. But what I wanted to say was to come on here and encourage you because I ran today, did 5 miles at a fast pace for me at 7:30, zero leakage. And I had 2 cups of coffee this morning. And I just say that to encourage you because I literally never thought that would happen again. Like I thought the damage had been done. And even once I started paying attention, I was like, okay, I'll probably need to use a pessary. I'll probably need to do this, but I can still make that goal. Zero support, zero leaking. I didn't even have to really think about it because I've tuned my foreman, I've changed a lot of things, and overall I've worked on my pelvic floor health really well for 2 years now. So you can do it too. This is an excellent question. I know I don't get a chance to cover pelvic pain a lot, but I do definitely love talking about it. So hopefully I can do more of that. It's just sometimes there's just so little time. Okay, but when I would work with people with pain with intercourse, my favorite thing to do is really dial in and ask them questions like this. Like, what position is it happening in? Is it with initial insertion? Is it with deep penetration? And a couple things happen. One, they look at you like, I can't believe you just asked me that. 2, they start to see that you're really driving at the physiological cause of it, which really helps, again, kind of work on the emotional things that are related to it. So there's a lot to peel away. However, positionally, I would say, what's happening at the hips? You know, the hips are so interconnected to the pelvic floor. Is it strength? Is it a strength issue? Is it a mobility issue? Is it an endurance issue? Are the inner thighs tight that they're restricting the hip motion? Lots to go into play there. Yes. So before the pandemic, I had the opportunity to take a myofascial course through Herman and Wallace, which, as an aside, I get a lot of messages about which continuing ed courses a lot of you professionals would like to take. I'm biased. I personally took Herman and Wallace, their P1 through 3, and some other ones. And the Ramona Horton myofascial. Yes. So before the pandemic, I had the opportunity to take a myofascial course through Herman and Wallace, which, as an aside, I get a lot of messages about which continuing ed courses a lot of you professionals would like to take. I'm biased. I personally took Herman and Wallace, their P1 through 3, and some other ones, and the Ramona Horton myofascial mobilization course for the lower extremity was excellent. I took it right before the pandemic, learned a ton through her, as well as she does have a visceral I have not had the opportunity to take. But I'm in their Facebook group. Tons of the pelvic floor professionals will talk about how it's impacted their patients, where they're trying to dig deeper in those that they're having a really hard time solving their root cause. And so that's looking at scar tissue or adhesions or anything along those lines. And I've heard really amazing things about it. Oh boy, there's a lot. So muscle imbalances, some imbalance in either strength, flexibility, or mobility that then gets transmitted elsewhere, right? So everything is connected. Let's take the hips, for example. If you have decreased strength of the hips, because of their intimate connection to the pelvic floor, they're going to transfer that load to the pelvic floor, and it's going to be trying to do a job that it is not meant to do in lieu of hips that aren't doing their job. Posturally, if we put ourselves into different positions, we're not aligning the diaphragm to work with the pelvic floor. But additionally, if we come into a slouch posture, we'll often get increased forces through the jaw that creates teeth grinding, which is connected to the pelvic floor and how we hold tension in our bodies. Butt gripping, anything where we're not relaxing and letting the pelvic floor work through its full range of motion will create a tight pelvic floor. I do not, but 2023, it's going to happen. I'm putting some stuff in motion, slow but sure. I will actually have some free content coming up for you guys that takes you a little deeper in depth than you can maybe grasp from just trying to piece things together in post, just because of the nature of how Instagram is, because I am so passionate about helping you improve this on your own and giving you those skills. So it will happen next year. For sure, I'm going to do it. Okay, definitely keep at it. I like the blocked child's pose, which I shared a post on before, where the knees are together, and so they're kind of blocking the belly from expansion, so you can expand into your back. You can also do that seated, hug your knees to your chest. Another one that I picked up, I think it was from Zach Couples, so I'm definitely not claiming that I created this, and I would not do this all the time, but you can come into a child's pose. You can do a wide-legged child's pose, and you're going to take your inhale, and you're going to exhale, lift the pelvic floor. Keep your pelvic floor lifted. This is the few rare times I will cue you to do this. You're going to inhale with the pelvic floor lifted. And so if we think that pelvic floor that's activated is going to block the downward movement, it's then going to push that air up. So you should actually feel a lot of expansion into the upper back if you try that one. That really depends on like what the person is dealing with. I would say number one, it is up to the individual patient if they're even comfortable with that. So my disclaimer always was like, this might be beneficial for us to know. However, like it is at your level of comfort. I never want you to feel uncomfortable or forced into doing something, so we can try a lot of external work. If we find we're getting to a roadblock, this can be helpful. And so it's always at that person's comfort level. And it also just really depends on how well somebody picks things up. I found more with pelvic pain, pain with intercourse, those who might have like old scar tissue, there's definitely a lot more internal hands-on work than depending on if I'm working somebody with DR, or maybe even prolapse. If they grasp the understanding of the exercise, and they don't need a lot of hands-on and they just need help with those progressions. I would not do strengthening until you can reset your resting tension, or in other words, be able to recognize what a lengthened position is, be able to decrease that resting tension on a regular basis through breath work, through hip opening, pelvic floor opening, decreasing those habits of butt gripping and ab gripping throughout the day, and cultivate the awareness to fully lengthen on an inhale, contract on an exhale, and go back to a lengthened resting position after a contraction. Because if you're just going to add strength and you're going to contract and not be able to reset again, I think that's where people get into trouble. However, I do also feel that sometimes we need to add the strengthening in that coordinated manner. So it's really important to grasp the coordination, because I do feel that when people are just hit this roadblock, is it perhaps that they have this weakness of their hips and glutes that they need to improve so the pelvic floor can relax. I've actually gotten a lot of messages from you guys about these. So if you saw my stories yesterday, you know I don't wear real diamond earrings. I tell my husband to take them back, and I buy these fake guys. I usually either get them at Target or Amazon. These are Kate Spade from Amazon, so I'll throw the link in there. I just wear them all the time. They're super easy, and if I end up losing like one pair, or like one side of them, which usually happens every couple years, then I just buy a new pair somewhere.